everybody, Zane here, and I thought I'd change things up a little bit today. Do something kind of new. Sorry about the old telly, it's a bit dusty. I'm pretty bad when it comes to getting my guitars repaired. But I had a couple of people write in messages and ask questions, and I figured I might as well start like a weekly segment, call something like Doctor's Appointment, where we'll discuss gear or a topic. And the one today I wanted to talk about is dynamics. Know how loud or how soft you're playing, or how loud or soft you should be playing. So I did a gig, the first gig in 4 months. It was very enjoyable. We played last week in Sydney, Australia, at a brewery in front of 50 people. That was the legal capacity. We sold tickets, sold out in pretty soon, like 24 hours. And apparently we were so loud that a neighbor complained and it shut the gig down, which sucks. That's not necessarily what I was going to talk about in terms of like not being that loud. That's more an issue that myself and other people who are musicians or just patrons in general have with the New South Wales state government. I'll save that for a different round. I'm talking more about making sure that when you play a gig, you play the right volume so that you get asked back to play another gig, right? You know, you don't want to do one gig, play all your best licks, go home, and then wonder why you never got called again. Because I've been there, I've been in that situation where I didn't know why I didn't get another gig, and, maybe it was that I just wasn't the right fit for the thing. Maybe I was too loud, maybe I was too soft. But one of the things that I think is probably the most common mistake that particularly young guys make when they do gigs is they just play too loud and they play too much. So, I got a couple of students that are really good players. They're around about 15, 16, 17, too young to go and gig professionally in bars. Here in Australia, it's got to be 18 to go into a licensed venue. So when I'm playing with them, in a lesson or jamming, I try and simulate that gig experience. I'll just call tunes and I treat it as if they were in my band. I'll call a tune. I might not even tell them the key that they have to work it out. And one of the things that I'll find straight up happens most of the time with these young cats is they're too loud and they play too much. And here we are just in a little sort of studio, and I'm blowing my voice out trying to sing over someone wailing some Stevie Ray licks, which great licks, right? But when the singer is singing, it's about them. And it's just as simple as that. As a guitar player, unless it's your band and it's an instrumental band Vi or Satch or one of those sort of things, or a jazz thing, it's about the vocals, And it's part of the reason why I started singing, right? I just found it so infuriating working with vocalists over the years. I thought, oh man, how hard could it be? This guy can hold a tune. Knew what I wanted to play. I liked getting double the money. I liked having full control. So I just did it, right? And obviously I don't have to have this sort of dialogue with myself about making sure I don't play too loud. It just happens. When I'm singing, this is secondary. This is a servant. And I think sometimes what happens as guitar players is we spend so much time in our little world, right? Listening to other guitar players, talking about guitar, working on our licks. It's just so inward focused of I'm getting better, that you lose perspective. You get down to a gig, you think everyone in the room is a guitar player like you. Who cares about, the Danny Gatton lick that you spent 13 hours working on, or the Joe Pass chord progression that you've just learnt. They don't care. No one cares about that stuff. Maybe once every couple of years there'll be a guitar player who'll go, see what you did there. That's all you'll get, right? I mean, it goes a long way, but that is essentially all you're going to get. So what you want to do is you realize you go in there and it doesn't matter what the gig is, right? You might be playing Foo Fighters covers, but you are there to serve the song. So listen really carefully. And also think about, regardless of, what gear you use, whether you're a Strat guy or a Marshall guy or something like that, the dynamics are really going to make or break something. If you're too loud, that's just going to create tension within the group, and it could destroy any kind of precious atmosphere or groove. Sometimes a song can be so fragile. It can just be picking up sort of spider's web or something like that. So I really urge you to focus really carefully on that aspect of things. Listen to your favorite players. When gigs resume around the world, like I know there's been a bit of a halt on everything. Uh, you'll inevitably just sort of listen to some great players in your local area and just really pay attention to what it is that those guys do. How are they playing? Are they playing? Sometimes you'll find that it doesn't actually need anything. Like, the gig that I did last week, we had a big band, drums, bass, acoustic guitar, saxophone, pedal steel guitar, and me, and 3 vocalists. Now that band's like a freight train, man. It can be really, really loud. And there were times when we played a couple of like Hank tunes. It just didn't need me. It didn't need the sax all the time. So if there was a verse where my brother, who's a steel player, was taking the fills, then I just sat out. Or like maybe once every like 8 bars, I might sort of just play like a little sort of, something like that. That's all it needed. And then there'd be like an exchanging of the baton. Like I would do that and he would sit out. Or in someone's solo, it probably didn't need me. They're just interesting things to think about. That I think that particularly, when you're younger, and I know I was definitely guilty of this, you're just so excited to play. You got so much energy. You get out there, you want to play all of your licks. And the reality is, like, a song doesn't need all of your licks. Even a gig doesn't need all of your licks. God, like, when I play a gig, even though a gig might be like 3 or 4 hours, I'm using, mostly just probably like 10 or so ideas or lick ideas at nearly all the gigs I do. Like that's what it calls for. A lot of the videos that I do of me like doing more out there stuff, that's how I get my kicks. I do that like in the studio, I do it at home. If you're playing a Hank Williams tune, I keep it pretty straightforward. Unless it's a late night jam session with other musos and you want to chuck in chord melody stuff and bebop licks. Most of the time, like just nice melody, good dynamics, and you'll be right. So if you got any topics that you want me to kind of talk a little bit about, like with my experience of gigs or teaching, studying, hell, I've done a lot of that. On whether it's guitar stuff, gear stuff, technique, theory, harmony, even music history stuff, please send comment here, and I'm going to try and do one of these maybe one or so a week, just get through a bunch of things, and I'll still keep doing all of the like actual lick lesson things, but hasn't been the avenue in that to kind of really talk about broader things about being a musician or what it means to be a guitar player and the big cog of the music industry. And so yeah, thank you for tuning in on this first doctor's appointment, and we'll see where it goes, huh? Hit subscribe, hit me up on Instagram, RevDrZ. You can make a donation on PayPal, huh? I've only had 1 gig so far in the last 4 months. Bank account's looking pretty dry. And I'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.